one podcast, mining the Magic the Gathering subreddits for salt. This is the Howling Salt Mine.
It's the Howling Salt Mine. The Howling Salt Mine.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Howling Salt Mine podcast, the podcast where we delve into those salty, salty mines of the Magic the Gathering community, find the saltiest stories, those salty confessionals that we love, put them in our minecart, and bring them back up to you, our dear prospectors at home. As always, I'm your host, Sam, and I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Mike and Tony. Say hey, guys.
Howdy.
Whoa, what the?
Uh-oh.
Know your place.
We're at the point now where if we say it in the correct order, it will be properly confusing.
What up?
Yeah, it's been a while since we addressed the order, but for new listeners, I say Mike and Tony, and generally speaking, Tony answers first, and then it's Mike. We hope that people figure that out by the time they get to the salty card of the week, and it's Mike talking very clearly, but some people don't.
I like a little mystery in my life. You
Yeah.
know?
I'd be fine being mistaken for Tony.
It's not a mystery for you, Tony. So how you guys feeling after Tony's bachelor party
After that
weekend?
batch party, baby. Whoop, 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 whoop,
After that
whoop.
sick batch.
Pretty good.
I'd feel better if I did less cocaine, but it would have been like
God.
I was ripping lines in the bathroom while you guys were fucking
definitely.
playing Mario Kart.
We did play Mario Kart.
Yeah, that part was real. Yeah.
Half of that conversation we just had existed.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went to Poos Pond.
Papoose.
Papoose
Oh,
Pond.
I forgot there was another.
Yeah, there was indeed a puh in the beginning.
Yeah, we went to
Papoose Pond.
Papoose Pond. Had a boat crew, had a poos crew. So Mike and Sam didn't make it to the boat, which was sad because it was supposed to be on the Saturday of the weekend we were there, but it was going to rain, so we changed the days. But the boat was like kind of sick. It had been on for like 13 hours. Like it was very new. But it had this like slide and like a second like tier. But like when you jumped from the top into the water, it was like it's fucking far. It was probably like 12 feet, like maybe 15 feet.
Wow.
Like
Yeah, that's wild.
enough that when my head hit when I dove, it hurt the dome a lot.
Yeah.
But I think that's also because I don't have hair, so there's just like nothing cushioning.
There's no cushion.
Yeah, you don't have like my sweet Brillo pad of hair to like really cushion it, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, I did stick my hands in front of me, but I think I just like kind of missed, you know. So it's like the hands went in, and then the head directly slapped the water. And
So
it
did
was
you
like,
face plant, or was it a little top
it
of
was
that crispy
pure
dome up
top
there?
dome.
Nice.
Top dome.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a quality dive right there, dude.
yeah, but it was sick. Played a bunch of Magic, drank a lot. Slept
We did not
a lot.
play a bunch of Magic. We
No,
played
we played
like
two
two
games.
games of Magic.
It felt like a lot of Magic.
It was a lot of time of Magic.
Yeah, because we played a 5-person game, which is hilarious because we preached that you shouldn't do that. And right
Yeah.
beforehand, Tony turned to me and he was like, "We shouldn't really be doing a 5-player game." And I was like, "It's fine." And it was like a 2-hour game, and we were all just getting drunker and drunker. And Tony started drinking like pint glasses of red wine and was just like unhinged by the end of the game.
Tony would run over, take his turn, drop out like 4 cards, hit someone in the face with a Sarah Ascendant, and then run off to do something else.
It'd be like, "I have no responses," and
Yeah.
leave.
But I always made it back in time for my turn. So
You did. You
the
did. to
delays
your
were never
credit.
on me.
And you won, right? Or am I?
I
No,
should've
food,
fucking won.
food pre-con, baby. Food
Oh,
pre-con
right.
won.
Food
That's
pre-con
like bullshit.
undefeated.
It's
over
because the
weekend.
Mystics deck didn't know how to play it.
The food pre-con was very good, I must say. I was very
The Mystics
surprised.
deck was my ally and fucking countered my shit.
Well,
like all
Mystics
the time.
deck
Well,
won, so yeah, he
Yeah,
won.
I mean-
so it's hard to say.
We were playing Star, which is like a weird variant format for 5 people, where I think we've explained this before, but in case it's been a while, you got 5 people at a table, and the people on your right and your left are your allies, and the other 2 people are the only people you can attack. Those are the only 2 that count as opponents for like card effects and shit like that. And you win by defeating both of your opponents and having the most allies in play, because there's some situations where like multiple people's opponents will be gone at the same time and you kind of have to like count who has allies remaining. So the Mizzix deck was countering Tony a bunch because Tony was in a position where he was just going to absolutely blow out everybody and win, and the Mizzix deck needed to slow you down so that
That's
the
not
Mizzix
true.
deck could win.
The
That is
Mizzix
exactly
deck did
true.
it just to fuck with me.
No,
that is
exactly true.
That is
No.
definitely why they did it.
You just were not in a state of mind to understand.
Nah,
the
I know.
greater
I know this to be
politics at
true.
play.
I was gonna kill Nick, and he fucking countered me.
Yeah,
Nick
he
was
stopped you.
also his enemy.
Yeah, but he
Nick
didn't
was
want
also
that
his
done
enemy.
because you would have killed me faster than he could have stopped Mike.
Adam, if you're listening, I hate you. It's fine.
Adam, you're great.
It was the situation where, like, you know, normally Star Battle does this thing where you have fewer opponents, so it goes a little smoother, because instead of like needing to kill 3 people like a normal EDH game, you're actually only killing 2. So the fact that you have an extra player is kind of balanced out by the fact that fewer players need to die for the
Yep.
game to end. But instead, it just meant that there were 5 people and everyone was messing with everyone, and and then for there to be like bachelor party silliness happening around us of like people running around playing games and stuff.
Yeah. So what happened there is that in the background while you guys were doing that, I was also playing Texas Hold'em, but we had no money. We weren't playing with money. We were betting drinks. So it's like you could bet a lot of drinks. There's like fireball shots getting thrown in there.
my
There's
God.
like multiple
chaos.
drinks, like 4 drinks. Basically, you have to
It was
just drink
very
your whole drink.
chaotic.
But I came in on one of the rounds and I was like, yo, I got this. They dealt me in. I go and I fucking won the hand. And my other friend got super fucked because he was like, he doesn't have shit. I don't believe him. And then I had 2 pairs.
Got him.
Yeah,
Got him.
you did it. You done
2
did it.
pairs.
I spent
Yeah.
most of the weekend playing Mario Kart.
Yeah, I played a
which
lot
I
of Mario
hadn't
Kart.
played in like 3 years. And someone
Nice.
brought a Switch with Mario Kart and Smash. And man, I was like transported back to just jamming video games all day with friends.
Yeah,
I think
they
I
were good.
probably played like 10 hours of Mario Kart. Like it was
Oh my God.
fucking amazing. Like I played so much, dude. It was awesome. And it was just like a rotating crew constantly of people doing like Grand Prix and like they were really good balanced games. Like everybody had like some dope skill that they were bringing. But
Yeah, I
most
got a
people
bunch of
did.
nerd friends.
There's a
They're all
bunch of
good at the
nerds
video
showing up,
games.
Like, we could have started a small game store if we wanted to, with the
Yeah.
amount of like board games and just all
Yeah,
kinds of
for
games
real.
that people brought. There were like literally bags.
There was so many board games that just didn't get played. Like I felt bad.
Yeah, like none of them got touched.
Well, I mean, there's a ping pong table and foosball. So how many board games can you really play when
Yeah.
you got like tempting
Yeah,
things like
and
that
fucking
and
video
Mario
games,
Kart
man.
down on the table?
Yeah,
exactly. Also, playing Smash again, dude. Like I haven't played Smash seriously since college days when I was playing Melee like every day for like 4 or 5 hours. You know, obviously it's like slightly different game. Like the move sets are slightly different with like the new Smash on Switch. What is that? Smash Ultimate? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, I think so.
But dude, your boy's still got some skill. Like it felt good to be like, oh wow, like I'm actually still winning. Like I wasn't amazing or anything. Like you guys were definitely.
Oh, I was bad. I think I only won 1 game, and I
think you were
played like a
doing great.
million. I did fine. The
Adam was
fundamentals
really
were there.
good.
Adam was really, yeah. There were some people you could tell had like been playing. Tony was also really
Tony was
good.
good. Tony was really good.
Tony, I
You
think,
know.
had the highest skill to intoxication level.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
that is
every-
definitely true.
I think nobody else that had that many beers was able to perform to the same degree as that.
Yeah. Man, the sudden death matches were the fucking best.
Yeah,
when we
those
did
were
like
hilarious.
3-stock sudden death. It was so fucking fun.
Because you can very easily level the playing field if you start everyone at 300%
Yeah.
damage. And
yeah, it's the best. It's like
yeah,
one hit and they
free-for-all.
just launch off.
Yeah.
And with Ultimate, you can get up to like, we had like 5 or 6 people playing at a time too. 'Cause
Yeah.
you can go up to 8. So that was great.
Yeah, it was so fucking fun, dude.
Yeah.
But I don't miss the 4 hours of sleep I got each night on the air mattress. I do miss sleeping next to you though, Mike.
Yeah.
When I got home, I almost texted you and was like, I miss you.
Doesn't feel right.
It's gonna be hard to fall asleep tonight without you.
Meanwhile, your wife next to you, like, who are you texting?
Yeah, it was a
Fucking
good time,
love
man.
that.
It was super,
Yeah,
super
it was
fun.
great. And Tony, you got some cool friends. It was
Yeah.
awesome having 12 people that could all hang, you know?
I think it's
Yeah.
rare to have like a group, like multiple groups of friends that you can like melding pot and just like bring them together. I think I got friends that I can do that with, but I also have friends that I like definitely can't do that with. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Call him
for
out.
sure.
Call him out by name right now. Let's go.
Michael.
Oh shit.
Yeah, Mike.
Oh
Wow,
shit.
doxed.
Yeah, he just
you
got
can't say
doxed.
your last names on the podcast, Tony.
Yeah,
you
bleep.
cannot
Can we get
do
a
that.
bleep editor?
We just need the bleep. That's all we need.
No, I'm just going to delete it completely.
That's sad.
Um,
The bleep would be more fun.
Well, no fun.
Wep. You know what else we did a lot of? I don't know about you guys, but I ate a lot of chips.
I ate so many chips
ate
and
an
so many.
extreme amount of chips.
Dude, I think I ate like 50 peppermint patties.
Oh,
There's a
Like
lot of
we
things
bought
too.
Reese's and like Reese's cups and peppermint patties
Well-
and like tossed those in the fucking freezer, which is like a pro move because it was like 85 degrees and 100% humidity every single day. So just like the ice cold of
Yeah.
a frozen peppermint patty, dude. Ooh, it's the best.
we were walking through the grocery store, and I was in the car that went up with me, Sam, Nick, and our friend Adam. And we were walking around the grocery store, and someone was like, "Oh, I think we need to pick up some sweet things." I think they said like they don't have some desserts.
Yeah.
And we were like, it was just Nick and I going on, you know, a mission away from the mothership cart to go get some sweet things. And we're like walking down the aisles, and I'm like, I think the cookie aisle is here. Like, let's go grab some Oreos. And Nick was just beelining it to these huge bags of New York mints and Reese's peanut butter cups. And I was like, okay, I can't stop you from this. This is clearly the correct.
It was so clutch, dude. It was,
I
it
will
was
say
really good.
we had like 4 different packs of Oreos. And
Yes.
anytime we
Yeah.
opened one and set it down, it was
It was
Gone.
fucking gone.
it's literally
Gone.
in like 5 minutes, like an actual 5 minutes. All of a sudden, it was just, except for one. I can't tell you how many times I found like there was like one of something like one Reese's peanut butter cup, one
Yeah.
Oreo in the thing. Like literally one time, I think there was actually like a singular chip left in a bag. I was like, who fucking did this?
Everyone was
Like,
just leaving them for you, Tony.
I guess.
Yeah, just like consumed so quickly everything. It was really funny.
Yeah. Faux show.
Well, speaking of chips, should we
Oh,
talk
there we
about
go.
some other salty things?
Ooh, what a smooth
I was literally going to be
segue.
like, we didn't talk about salt, but like, let's talk about salt now.
I was setting it up in advance.
Damn. At least someone's on the ball.
Love that.
So we're not just here to talk about fun batch weekends and our friendship. We're also here to talk about salt.
But Sam, what's salt?
Great question, Tony.
I feel like that one was good too. I added a little little flair, you know.
Mhm,
Yeah, I
mhm.
didn't like that part, but
Oh, okay. Well, fuck you too.
salt is frustrations in the game.
I'm sorry. Could you take that again? I don't like how you said that.
Wow.
Sam, edit Tony out in the future
For this
cut.
episode.
Yeah, for the entire episode. Edit Tony out of the entire podcast, Sam.
Fuck.
Go
That's a
back
lot
and
of
edit
editing
it.
out to do.
Salt is frustrations in the game, and those frustrations can be big or small. You know, it can be something where like somebody removes a creature that you just cast, or maybe you played your commander and it got removed, and then you played it again and it got removed. You know, that's kind of like natural interaction in the game, but that can make you a little bit salty, a little bit frustrated with what's going on. Salt can also be really huge. Somebody's coming down and they're lying about their power level for their deck. They're sitting down and playing like a really fast combo deck, and you're on like a precon or something. You know, some of those like really heavy game imbalance issues that completely disrupt the enjoyment or the vibe of the game. Salt can also just be someone who's in like a shitty mood, or, you know, bringing some like baggage to the table and just kind of being a jerk and bringing everybody down. There are many different definitions of salt, from the small grains to the full shakers. And that's what we talk about on the show.
Nice. Well done. A little golf clap for him, everybody.
Thank
Golf
you.
clap.
Yeah, give me that fucking Dumbledore clap. Have you guys seen that gif? I think about it like all the time. Have you
Oh
seen
no,
this GIF?
but like
hand on
you
top.
doing that makes me understand exactly what you're talking about.
There's this GIF of Dumbledore clapping, and he's just like barely touching his hands together. I am always looking for opportunities to use that.
We just found one. Put it in the show notes.
Yeah, I'll have to put it in the show notes.
Make it the album art for this episode.
Just a little Dumbledore.
Little still of Dumbledore, completely out of left field. It's like
Yeah.
brand on brand on brand on brand. Dumbledore, on brand on brand on brand on brand.
Well, shall we get into it, guys?
Let's do it.
Hell yeah.
Let's do it. So our first story comes to us from Gmail, and this one comes to us from our friend Pat Rogers. Pat, hopefully you don't care that I read your whole name because you didn't give an alternate name. And the story is titled, I Might Have Made a Player a Little Salty. And the story goes. So as we gathered for a friendly game, we had 6 of us, so we decided to do a 3-way, 2-headed giant game. Woof. It was my girlfriend and I, Murphy and his girlfriend, and 2 others not so important. Get fucked. So the first game goes by. I played my Narset deck, which is terribly built because I was just returning to Magic and I hadn't made any adjustments. Just too many high casting spells and creatures just built improperly. I was playing it so I could have some plays, but not too many to overwhelm others. And my girlfriend was playing a precon. Murphy was playing an upgraded elf precon, and his girlfriend had a custom bear deck. They wiped the floor with everyone. I didn't get to play any cards because I was so dry on land. So just total bust, and everyone but Murphy and his girlfriend were a bit salty. So next game, I decided I want to ramp it up a bit. So I pulled out my only other deck, which is Kalia of the Vast. I surprisingly, yeah, right. I surprisingly pulled my second best hand I could get. I was excited but nervous. It was the first time for me with this hand, so I kept it. Oh my God, this hand. A Mox Diamond. Already.
That's a problem.
Yeah, this is like an insane fast mana card. A Mox Diamond, Soul Ring, a few lands, Path to Exile, and a Master of Cruelties.
Oh, no.
Baby.
Oh no.
Love that.
Absolutely almost perfect hand. At this point, I knew it was going to draw hate and that nobody's commanders or board states mattered to me. My girlfriend is like, OMG, you got to do it. Not quite understanding the hate behind this combo. Because, oh yeah, I forgot they're like 2-headed. So turn 3, I got Kalia out, and turn 4, game. That's it. I targeted Murphy since they absolutely stomped us last game, and he had nothing but land on his field. After damage was dealt, he sat there salty, looking up the rulings on the combo, but it's been around for so long, I told him it still goes through, and he kept trying to tell me it doesn't work. But I found a thread online that told him otherwise, and after all the salt, everyone else scooped, and we all went home. I don't know. Tell me what you guys think. P.S. I absolutely love the show. Keep up the great work.
Oh.
Well, to the post title where he said you might have made a player a little salty. Yeah, it seems like you did.
Yeah. Oh no, yeah. That's not might. It's not maybe. Y'all left for the night. You were like, all right, we can't be friends anymore tonight. Like we're leaving. What's the question about the combo?
It's not exactly clear in the post here, but like let me read Master of Cruelties real quick. I think we all know Kalia of the Vast enough, so we don't really need to talk about that. But basically, Kalia can attack and just like dump out demons, angels, or dragons onto the board. And that's kind of like what its jam. That's her jam. That's what she do.
It's what it do.
That's what it do, Yugi. Master of Cruelties is a 1/4 demon, costs 3, a black and a red. It has first strike and death touch. It says Master of Cruelties can only attack alone. You can supersede that by, dropping it into play with Kalia. And it says whenever Master of Cruelties attacks a player and isn't blocked, that player's life total becomes 1. Master of Cruelties assigns no combat damage this combat.
Yeah.
So my interpretation of this is that it's like a 2-headed giant thing because it's a shared life total. You know what I mean?
I think it might have been a like it can't do it because it didn't attack alone thing. But like when you dump it out, like that is how that works.
Yep.
There's so many layers of this. There's one, someone might think, oh, it can only attack alone, so it can't be attacking or something with Kalia when it's attacking. There's also whenever Master of Cruelties attacks, that sounds like an attack trigger, but That's not actually what it triggers on. It triggers on attacks and isn't blocked. So it can also do that part of the text. And then there's also the double-headed giant thing. So there's so many layers where you might be like, oh, any of one of these reasons makes it not apply in this format. But in fact, it does. It still hits you in the face, knocks you to 1, and then you die to Kalia hitting you in normal strike damage.
Yeah, this is the first. I think you're spot on with that, Mike. I think it actually has to do with the attacks a player isn't blocked clause there, because it sounds like an attack trigger. But the first ruling of Master of Cruelties says an ability that triggers when something, quote, attacks and isn't blocked, end quote, triggers in the declare blockers step after blockers are declared if 1, that creature is attacking, and 2, no creatures are declared to block it. It will trigger even if that creature is put onto the battlefield attacking rather than having been declared as an attacker in the declare attacker step. And that's a ruling from 2013. So our buddy Pat here is correct that this is like a long-standing thing. I mean, if anyone's faced a Kalia deck that is trying to be like fast and mean, Master of Cruelties is in that deck 100%. This is also something that shows up in like Alesha decks sometimes. Not in our group because I play a really weird version of Alesha, but most Alesha decks play this cheated out and like knock somebody out in a single hit.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely maximum salt. I do wonder why that ended the play group right away. I mean, if you have time, like that's 3 turns and someone's dead. It's not like you're spending a long time building up a value engine and then doing something salty. Like this is set up turns and then the game is over.
Yeah.
So in a lot of these situations, you see another game happen after this, and that can kind of alleviate some of this thing. Ending on this note is a really bad feeling.
Yeah, I agree. I think if like something like this happened in our group, we would play a different game afterwards, you know? Like generally when we all get together and play games in person and a game ends really salty, we're like, okay, let's go outside and touch grass. Sometimes literally we go outside and we touch the grass. And then it's like palate cleanser time. Like let's play a couple rounds of Love Letter. Let's play something. And then like we'll get back to the magic.
I don't know. We've had nights where I specifically remember Willow Dusk. Like one of the first times Willow Dusk came out, I came in hot and I like fucked you guys up, and then we ended. Like people were like, I don't want to play anymore. And I feel like this kind of feels like that. It feels like you're like borderline outclassed and it was like too far, and I'm like, it's like, okay, whatever. I'm over. I'm out. I feel like it's almost the vibe. So I can see how it would happen because I've unintentionally done it before.
I do think that there's a difference between like packing your shit and heading home in person versus like virtually.
Yeah, true.
Like it's so much easier to be like, okay, it's late. I just got like stomped. I don't really want to do anything else. Like I'm fucking done and I'm getting out of here. Versus like packing up your shit, jumping in the car and driving home after like a day of hanging out with your buds, you know? I think that hits like a very different salt level to me. I think if this happened to me, I would be salty. Maybe not so much to like end the game night though.
I don't know. I feel like the thing that makes me the saltiest about this post is that when I played Kalia the Vast, I never got to do this.
Yeah.
Because I definitely have that deck. It was actually my first commander deck.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that before.
My first commander deck was Kalia, and
it was one of the first ones I bought too, like way back in the day. It was in that like first big
I
set.
made it. I didn't and it was so bad. I was so used to playing like 60 card decks where creatures were getting burned. Like we had no exile in the like brews and pods I ran in. Like your creatures would get burned out or they like got blocked by other creatures and died. So I had like anthem effects in there to pump her like by +1/+1. Like it was such a bad deck. But it was filled with a lot of ridiculous fucking like demons and dragons and shit.
Yeah, I remember like my first commander deck that I personally built was a mono red Kiki Jiki deck. And it had no combos because I didn't fucking know I didn't know that combo was even the thing. Yeah. Because I was such like a little magic baby. And I think it was like 40 lands, 50 creatures, and then like 10 random instants and sorceries. And that was like the deck.
Yeah. I remember Kalia making me a little salty because I thought it was super cool and wanted to make it, and then Tony was like, "Oh, I made that already. You won't like it. Don't even play it. It's not even fun to play against." And I was like, "Oh, okay, I guess."
I mean, he was right about that last part. It's not fun to play
is kind of
against.
right about that. That is the problem with Kalia, and I think we've talked about this repeatedly. But there are commanders that, like, the floor of them is really high. Like, even if you build Kalia with kind of goofy things, if you put in some of the basic synergies, it only takes one Master of Cruelties getting dropped out for the game to be completely impacted.
Yeah.
And a little bit of fast mana being in that deck means it's a totally different caliber than, the other deck that you were playing in the first game.
Mox Diamond Soul Ring is fucking insane.
Yes.
Like, let's be real. Like, Mox Diamond Soul Ring land is fucking crazy for a starter hand.
Yeah.
In like a casual, like, two-headed giant game. You know what I mean?
That's where it's like it doesn't feel so casual anymore, right?
Yeah,
like,
totally.
If that's like in there.
I mean, I think that can be a problem when you like go to a game night and you only have a couple decks on hand and you're like, hey, I have this like Narset jank and then I have my like hella tuned fucking, fast mana deck. And you got to kind of factor that shit in, especially when you have like a quick win button like that.
Yep.
Yeah. But it also makes sense. Like, those are the kinds of decks I would grab if I was going to play with randos. I'd be like, I want to be able to hang in these two crowds. And there's kind of not a ton of room to, like, I'm not going to like bring a whole bag with like 10,000 decks. And all of a sudden I'm going to grab two decks and one's going to fucking slap you
out right now.
And one is going to fucking just like be shit.
I am unable to go to anything without bringing like an obscene number of my decks.
Yeah,
I'm always like, but what if I don't have exactly the right option to match the power level of people I'm playing against? And then I still end up in mismatched pods because the conversation doesn't completely suss out what the level it is. Or I'm like, oh, I really want to play this. And someone's like, I'm playing kind of mid. And I'm like, well, this is what I want to play, so I'm going to play it anyway.
Or like when we go to conventions and we just play fucking CDH all weekend. We're like, why do we bring these other decks?
Yeah, it's true.
So what do we think about the salt level here?
I think it's pretty high. You're knocking out one of two other opponents because it's double-headed giant, and it's a three-way double-headed giant. There's only one other pair of people after that.
Yeah.
So it really has immediately warped the game in an irrecoverable way. So I think that's pretty high salt, and especially to have what seems like a pretty even kind of back and forth game. Maybe some people were a little locked out, drawing into nothing, and then have that followed up by a complete blowout is pretty disappointing.
I think it's like mid to high salt. Obviously, super high salt for your buddy Murphy that, was basically like, I scoop, I'm getting the fuck out of here. Like, game day is done. But I don't really fault Pat for it. I mean, you only had a couple decks in hand, and it's sort of like sometimes you just draw those crazy hands, and maybe you could have done like a slightly better power conversation or something like that. But at the same time, it's like when you draw those crazy hands, what do? Do you play it, or do you show it to people and then you mulligan? Like, I think that could be an option there, and just be like, hey, check out this crazy hand I have. It's possible for me to knock you guys out in 3 turns. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to mulligan it away. But do you really do that in that situation?
No.
I don't think I would.
Nah, bro, you fucking take them out every time.
You run it.
I've played in pods before with my Gave deck where I had like a turn 2 win, and I did hold on to it for a couple turns because I felt mean just jamming it immediately. And I ended up losing that game. I got like interacted. Oh no, I did win it, but I did get interacted with.
Wow, just humble flex there, folks.
Yeah, I mean, I got interacted with, but I still overcame it and still won pretty handily, actually. So, and it was all piloting skill, actually, that carried me there.
Yeah. I mean, winning interaction, that's always pilot skill. So
I think the biggest salt for me in this one is the poor folks who didn't even get real names.
Oh, yeah.
They just didn't matter.
I love that. I love, like, we get stories like that. I feel like we had one last week where we get stories sometimes and they're like, and these other things don't matter to the story. And it's true. Like, it doesn't matter what those people are playing, but it is just so funny that it's like, whatever.
Yeah.
Love that shit. Well, thanks, Pat. That was a good, salty story. We absolve you of your sins. It's fine. I will point out that you are playing Narset and Kali of the Vast, though. So maybe like find a third deck. Both like super salty, like free value commanders in different ways, though.
Well, shall we do another?
Let's do one, guys.
Another. Give us another.
Let's hop over to Patreon.
Let's hop
This
there,
one
baby.
comes to us from our buddy Grumpy Coast. What's up, Grumpy?
Hey.
Yo.
And the post is titled Player Removal Sucks.
Only when you're packing it.
And the story goes, yo, salty boys.
Yo.
Played a late night spell table game with some randos, power level 6 to 8, which is pretty broad. But I decided to play my power level 7.5 Selvala Elf Ball deck with infinites, since I love her and I don't get to play her so much lately.
Which Selvala, though?
Tony, anything to say there? You're like grinning.
Well, it's Bay, like, you know.
Yeah,
But
okay.
the real thing in my mind is like, is it really 7.5? Like,
Well,
I feel
yeah.
like it's probably higher than 7.5, but that's all right. Everyone's always shitting on Selvala, so it's probably like a 3. You're in the right. You're in the fucking right.
You haven't even heard the story and you're like, you got it. You're correct.
Not even the card. Tony's just a fan of the character now.
Yeah, exactly. I was playing against a Karumanix, Slimefoot and Squee, and Nadar. Usually in random pods, Selvala looks pretty unassuming, which allows me to develop and not take too many hard hits, meaning I don't need to throw chump blockers in the way. I quickly present a 4 elf board with Wirewood Channeler by turn 4. The mistake? I played Uba Mask on turn 5.
Uba
Hell
Mask.
yeah,
My
baby.
only hate-inducing card in the deck.
Uba
Yo,
Mask.
real quick aside, fuck that card.
Yeah, fuck that card.
Absolutely
That's plenty of hate.
Fuck that card.
That's so much. My hate is already induced.
That's a little salt from you guys?
Yes.
A little salty?
Yep. I'll never hide from that.
I hope you're tasting it. I'm laying it on thick, dude. Okay, I've never done this before, but we're interrupting this story to read these 2 cards. So first, I'm going to read Selvala Explorer Returned. Selvala Explorer Returned costs 1, a green, and a white. It's an Elf Scout 2/4 legendary creature. It has ability called Parlay. You tap. Each player reveals the top card of their library, and for each non-land card revealed this way, you add a green to your mana pool and you gain 1 life. Then each player draws a card. So basically, each player reveals the top card of their deck, you get some mana and some life, and they put that card into their hand.
This is an S tier CDH build that comedian doesn't dare run at tournaments because he's too weak.
In an A to Z range, it is S tier. All right. Uba Mask says it's a 4-mana artifact. It says if a player would draw a card, that player removes that card from the game face up instead. Each player may play cards he or she removes from the game with Uba Mask this turn. Now, when this is annoying is when Selvala activates not on your turn and you exile like a creature or a sorcery or an artifact or some shit, and then you just can't play it. And if you untap Selvala and retap her, you can just like combo off and basically people lose their entire deck and they can't respond. So it's like stealing the draw and kind of covering up the weakness for Selvala. Like it is a good card in Selvala. I won't deny it. But holy shit. Fucking hate playing against it.
It's so painful.
All right, back to the story. The Karumanix player to my left quickly says, "Oh, so you're the threat."
Yeah.
Correctly assumed. The others quickly agree because apparently no one has artifact removal handy. The ensuing 2 turn cycles has all 3 players come at me, including Karumanix with 2 5-power rat colonies and a slightly pumped up Nadar that I can chump. I develop a little more, but have nothing that can remove any creature or get me the win, and I'm down to 15 life through the next turn cycle. On turn 7, since I have a Faith's Reward in hand, I decide, okay, I'm chumping since I can recur if I need to. I don't think I can go infinite since I only have Kogla instead of Sabertooth, but I use the Kogla to blow up an Ogre Slumlord, so if I need to chump to live, he doesn't get a ton of rats. I also play a Woodland Bellower, so with those for blockers and possible chumpers, I feel like I can make it to the next turn to possibly go for the win then. Karumanix plays his Marrow-Gnar, giving all his rats fear, and takes me out. I hide it well, but I was so salty about their choice of artifact removal by player removal. Admittedly, it wasn't only that. Nadar correctly identified that all I needed was an Umbral Mantle or similar card, and I was going infinite. But I couldn't fathom how much Uba Mask painted a target on my back. I don't feel like that was the correct call for the other two players, especially since Karumanix's board was looking pretty scary too. But whatever, I learned my lesson, I guess, that I shouldn't play cards like Uba Mask. I'd already taken Winter Orb out several months ago. Oh my God, Grumpy. But am I right for feeling salty for their targeting of me due to Uba Mask? Is it that salty of a card?
Yeah.
Love the pod. Stay salty. Cheers, Grumpy Coast.
Grumpy, you wrote into the wrong podcast to try and get absolution for playing Uba Mask.
Yeah.
Like, love it, man, but that's the wrong one.
From
Yeah.
one Uba Mask player to another, you must always expect to be targeted
Yeah.
once an Uba Mask hits the table.
So
'Cause
true.
what is happening is it's not in the same way that like Narset Putter of Veils takes away resources, but you're taking resources away from your opponents. Like
Yeah.
that is how it's viewed. Like, sure,
Yeah.
they get the card that turn, but they're most likely losing it. And so that will just paint a target on your back. And like the easiest thing, if you don't have, artifact removal, is to just go after the player. And so like, it's just such a target because no one at the table wants that to happen, right?
Yep.
Yep.
I think the reason you can get away with it in CDH more is because there aren't as many like big beefy creatures going around. Typically, there's definitely certain metas that have that, but like at least in our meta, like they can't chip me down. They can't get me down. I'm just like, I could whip out an Uba Mask, and if it's early enough, and man, then if you get Dranith out, then you're just
Oh
like,
yeah, then it's a full
fucking
lock
sailing.
because you can't play the cards
Then you're
from exile.
fucking
So you're
sailing.
fully locked.
But you got to expect it. There's no getting around that, sadly. I wish I could say otherwise, but
Yep.
great card,
Yeah.
great place. I don't think that's a 7.5, but
I mean, maybe now that Winter Orb is out of it.
Yeah. Well, one other thing that happens is, Grumpy mentions, well, the other player was looking kind of threatening. There's a really big difference between like two players that have kind of big, beefy, threatening boards with like a lot of creatures at them, and then another player that has a really pretty limited board, but a really potent stacks piece. It's like both of the players with big boards, they're going to lose a lot if they try and swing at the other person with a big, highly developed, like large power and toughness board. Like the
Yeah.
attacks and the blocks are like a lot messier, a lot more dies. So both of those players are going to say, well, that guy's just got like chump blocks. I'm going there. So it's definitely something that feels really bad in the moment of like, how am I the threat? Like, I don't have damage. I can't kill people. But at the same time, you are secretly the threat because you're threatening a combo win. And there's like nothing to be lost by attacking you. So people are
Mhm.
just going to take kind of that easy attack instead.
And disruption, like an Uba Mask, is very tilting because, like Tony said, it's similar to Narset Parter Veils, but it isn't Narset Parter Veils, which limits you to one card draw per turn. What this is really doing is it's letting you draw the card, putting it into exile, and showing you what you're missing out on. And that like does something to a Magic player, like psychologically, kind of. I think we've talked about that with Mill before.
Yeah.
Where
for sure.
it feels so much worse to be milled than the actual like game state change for milling one card. But you see that card go away and you're like, man, I can't fucking get it back. And when it's in exile, you really can't get it back.
It is even worse. It is actually worse than mill because
Yeah.
unlike a lot of situations where you hopefully have some way of recurring your milled thing, you're kind of SOL unless you have like some of those weird exile recovery effects, which
Yeah,
no
and
one
even
runs.
then, it's like, yeah, no one runs that shit. But man, Uba Mask, like, it's a really funny thing. We've talked about it a lot. Our CDH meta with our pod, with the four of us, including Nick, is so weird because we're just on like kind of strange decks. Like the fact that we have Marath, the fact that we have Sisay. Sisay is a little bit more normal nowadays, but it used to be like a very strange deck. And we have Selvala and Animar and all these kind of strange decks and stuff like that. And it's funny because when I used to play Dawnwaker Thrasios, I still play him sometimes, but not all the time. I would go in the Discord for Dawnwaker Thrasios and be like, how do you guys deal with Uba Mask? Because Thrasios like draws off the Thrasios activations, and the Uba Mask was super disruptive because I couldn't build my hand like Seedborn Musing over the course of turns that were passing. And people were like, where are you seeing fucking Uba Mask? Like, what are you talking about? I was like, this is like the problem card in my meta right now. Is that Uba Mask comes down and I just cannot accumulate value.
You know, the real threat about Uba Mask is that it completely shuts out Orcish Bowmasters.
Yeah, dude. Fucking hard counter to Orcish Bowmasters.
I'm not even worried about fucking Orcish Bowmasters. Fucking bring that shit in here. Like, I'm ready for it.
Just put on your Uba Mask. It's really just an interesting card, man. Like, I regret that I am pretty sure I'm the one that suggested Tony put Uba Mask into his Selvala deck. At the very least, I think I was the one who introduced it to the group with my Prosper deck that I made at one point. Because it's great in Prosper. Like in some decks, it's just gas because you can cast from exile easily. It's just not that big of a deal. You can get some extra benefit. But man, that card, I fucking hate it, dude. I hate it so much.
It slaps.
It does.
What do we think about the salt rating here?
High.
Yeah, it's pretty high.
Like, I'm sorry that happened to you, Grumpy, but like, I would be joining in. I would be joining in and attacking.
Yep. My rats would be going the exact same direction.
Yeah. I think it is one of those cards that you need to play when you have like more of a secure board state because it paints such a huge target on you. And like Mike said, it will cause other people to kind of ignore the people with really big built up board states because it's just disruptive. You know, if someone has a 10-10 on their board, that's threatening, but it's not disrupting my game plan as much as an Uba Mask is, you know?
And I think it's also really a symptom of like combo playing. I play a decent number of combo decks and you're never the most threatening board presence, but you always, if people have played against you, have that, you know, everyone knows that you have that chance of going off from there. So even when you don't have that in hand, they're kind of obligated to assume that you do have a way to try and win in your hand because that's kind of what your deck does. It wins out of nowhere. Yep. So people are going to go for it, but it still doesn't feel good when it happens. But kind of knowing what your role at the table is, like if you're the combo deck, that's what's going to happen, can help mitigate some of that.
Yep, definitely.
And to that effect, like if you ever play with those people again, they're going to target you again because they're going to be like, oh, he's a fucking Uba Mask in that deck.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. It's so true. Yeah, that is 100% true. Also, don't put Drannith Magistrate in your deck.
Do it.
No, don't. Or do, but reevaluate because it's not a 7.5 at that point. Like it's moved
the
up.
Drannith is what tips it over from 7.5.
Yeah, well,
when you have a hard stacks lock in your deck that shuts people out of the game, you are no longer a 7.5.
Especially when it only involves like 2 cards.
Yeah,
that's problematic.
Fucking crazy, man. Love it. Well, thanks, Grumpy. With some good salt.
Shall we read another?
Yeah, let's do it. This next story is also a Gmail submission. Guys, we got a lot of Gmail submissions, but keep sending them in. We got a lot, and I love it. I love a healthy backlog, especially when Reddit shut down. It was like nice to have that.
It's like, whew, clutch.
So this one comes to us from our buddy G, and the post is titled Magic Con Salt. And the story goes, hi all, I just got back from MagicCon Minneapolis and played a ton of Commander over the weekend. Most of my games were quite fun and positive, so the ending of this game stuck out. We were a 4-person pod playing largely casual decks. It was a crazy combo of commanders. However, as my Captain Ingathrod mill deck, heard about that guy before.
Tried and true.
Yep. As my Captain Ingathrod mill deck was feeding a Gissa and Geralf zombie deck and 2 Golgari graveyard decks. As the game was winding down, my opponent's yards were bursting due to an early Ruin Crab and a casualtied Cut Your Losses. The battlefield had been wiped a couple of times by my main opponent's commander, Cerulf Realm Eater, and I had nothing on my board at all. This opponent had Cerulf on board with enough counters to one-shot me. On his turn, he turned to me and point blank asked why he should keep me alive.
Make your case.
I pointed out that I only had 7 life, 1 card in hand, and the various pingers on board would kill me just by accident on the next turn cycle, all of which was true. He thought about it and then turned his attention to the other players, leaving me alone. When he passed the turn to me, I cast the 1 card from my hand. Rise of the Dark Realms.
Nice.
He immediately scooped and said he had to be somewhere else. In quotes. I did win that game as the other players scooped as well rather than play it out, but the Sorulf player was by far the most salty. Thanks for reading. Love the show. G.
I love that.
Yeah, I think that's great.
I love that the Sorulf player walked right into it, you know? Like if you ask someone why they should be in the game, they're gonna have a reason. They're gonna have something to say about it. They're like, if they don't, I don't know. They want to end the game. So I love that. I love walking into this.
I think there's something to be said for taking a player out of the game when you're able to, unless like you can form some kind of alliance or be like, you can't attack me, you can't do something, like if you're going to spare somebody, make sure the advantage that you get out of it is big, what I mean?
And concrete. Yeah.
Yeah. And concrete 100%.
Right. Like it's not why should I leave you alone? It's what'll you do for me if I leave you alone?
Yeah.
They're subtly different, but they have a massive impact on what happens on the flip side of things.
I still don't do this, but just fucking kill them. Like every single time. Every time I leave people alive, I regret it. I'm always like, fuck, I would have won if I didn't. And like sometimes that's not what it's about. And that's usually why I don't kill people, because I'm like, I'm just trying to have fun. Like, because a lot of times I find for me, I'm in the position to do it like kind of early.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, this person's done
always.
Fuck all, or like I just have the right opportunity. I could just kill them and then I don't have to worry about them, because their wrath and retribution is not light.
Yeah.
I always find. Like I feel like this has happened with me and Pat a few times where it's like, I don't kill him, and then the next turn he's like, well, yeah, no, I'm gonna fuck you up now. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that tracks. That tracks.
I think that happens with Pat as well to the others of us in the group, where he'll be like, I could kill Mike right now, but I'm gonna do this, and it's like the more interesting play, and we'll pass. And then Mike's like, sweet, I'll board wipe, and we're like, well,
yeah,
here's my board state.
Literally.
It happened.
All my bargaining pieces for attacking you and knocking you out of the game are completely gone.
Mm-hmm.
Board wipe Popper over there.
Also, it's like you're playing against a deck that is built around milling people, and everyone's super milled. You have to have some level of awareness that that's a threatening position to be in, even if they're only going to have, the card in hand and whatever they draw into. So I kind of have to like give the Sorulf player, the majority of the blame here of like, the deck is set up to do what it's going to do, even if it seems unassuming. You have to assume that there's like a little bit of a threat there.
Yeah, I think if people are like truly honestly out of the game, you can kind of tell by their demeanor, like usually we'll just say like, I'm F6'd or something like that. Or like, I'm totally out of the game, or like, I have no responses. Yeah. Or sometimes
Sam tends to like whine in the corner and cry and sulk. And he's like, I can't do anything. Another land. Cool. Thanks.
I do. And then I fucking win. I come back and I win. I'm like, oh, you thought these were real
you're a
tears?
Determined little fuck at the same time. You like you say all those things, but you never concede. You're always just like, fucking, if you want me out, you need to do it.
Yeah, you do,
Finish
man.
me!
I don't concede. You got to get me. Or I do concede, but it's
I feel
rare.
like that doesn't work for me, because I'll be like, fucking do it, end me, and then Mike's like, okay, you're dead.
Well, I kill people.
Yeah, it's usually like, Tony, I think you spare people too often. I think that's like your fatal flaw in Magic.
Yeah,
often
for
it's
sure.
me.
Yes, we know.
But it's usually after you give me like a proper walloping, and I'm just like beaten, and I'm like, you're gonna attack me again, and you're like, all right, I won't. Like,
yeah,
yes,
literally.
Rise of the Dark Realms. This sounds like a crazy matchup, man. Like,
yeah,
4 graveyard decks is like,
it's pretty cool.
Like a mill deck and 3 graveyard decks is kind of like a nightmare matchup. Like, it's interesting, but it would be so hard to read who's the threat, because literally all you need is one spell, like Rise of the Dark Realms. Which should we read that? Like, do people know what that does?
Yeah, for sure. Let's give it a read.
The real thing I want to know is how much mana it is. I think it's like 8
10.
or some shit. Oh, it's
No,
10?
it's 9. It's 9.
9? Oh,
Yep.
2 blind.
9 mana.
Okay.
7 and 2 black for sorcery. Put all creature cards from all graveyards under the battlefield under your control. Boom. Very simple. Right there. And it's fucking like $20 card. 15 to 20. That's kind of crazy.
I need one for a couple of different decks I have.
I mean, the thing is, it's like, it's expensive, you know? Like, that is like a real late game card. But I don't know. I never expect recursion in mass like that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Probably because we don't have any like real graveyard decks in our group.
Yeah.
I mean, Rafine is kind of that, but
it's one of the cool things about a casual format like this is like one person can have this one spell that just warps the game, you know, one huge high mana costed spell. Like Commander is still one of the only formats that can really support something so like silly and swingy like this. So I kind of love to see it. It's just hilarious to see it in its ideal scenario when everybody's been milling like on their own intentionally.
Well, Insurrection is very similar. That's like an old school. It's not really played as much anymore, so I kind of see it as like an old school win con for Commander. 5 colorless, 3 red, untap all creatures and gain control of them, and they get haste. Like you just take everything. Like it's these spells where you just take everything. You're like, the whole board is mine. It's kind of like a weird. I'd almost put like Psych Rift in the same category, except it's a little too flexible, a little too powerful with the instant speed stuff. But it's this huge mana thing that is just like, I'm the only person who's going to have a good board state now, not you guys. It's just going to be me, and I'm going to get overwhelming value, and then I'm going to use the value to win. It doesn't automatically win, but you're probably going to win the next turn, maybe the turn after that.
I think it's mostly because so many of these weren't really made for like the multiplayer format in the same way. So it's like it would take you 10 mana, but the blowout was still a lot because it's your one opponent. But like now it's like you're getting so much more value. You're getting like 2 times the value, well, like 3 times
3
the value.
Board states, 3 graveyards when you've been milling everybody.
When you said that, I was literally like, you could play a deck that was Rise from the Dark Realms and Swamps. Yeah, and that's it. And if like you're playing against like 3 mill decks, like or 3 graveyard decks, like you just play that card and win. Like you literally don't need to do anything else. Like you just will likely win.
You need to not die, but other than that,
Sure. Well, it's an interesting spell because even though it is so expensive, obviously you can cheat the cost. Black is full of amazing rituals, lots of like mana doublers and shit like that. It's oddly a very good ramp color. So you can get it early, but it is like super board dependent. Like I could see entire games go by where Rise of the Dark Realms sucks. And you're like, oh, you want my like Sakura Tri-Builder for my graveyard? Okay.
Yeah, all yours.
Like, here you go.
The other thing that's honestly really funny about this to me is, and would be kind of salt inducing, is that once that one player forfeits the game, their cards are gone. So your Rise of the Dark Realms suddenly got a lot worse. So it's kind of nice that the other players just called it a scoop because they're like, well, it would have been a huge blowout thing. But those cards can be really frustrating when someone reacts to this overwhelming card that you're playing by scooping and it nerfs the card that you just cast. That can be a super frustrating situation.
Well, that's like what we say, like people don't scoop at instant speed with good intentions. Like this person, this Seraph player was like, I'm going to fuck up this spell with that flimsy excuse of like, oh, I got somewhere else to be. Like, no, you don't, dude. You're just about to win. You don't have somewhere else to go.
I'm picturing this
so funny, man.
I'm picturing this less of like an excuse lie of, oh, I have to be somewhere else, and more of a deep problematic sorrow of I need to be somewhere else.
I need to get away from here.
I need to be not here anymore.
I am so salty. I need to remove myself from the situation.
Yeah. This isn't working for me anymore. I need to be gone.
Oh my God.
I feel like we're talking about it, but what is the official salt rating here on this for you guys?
Full shaker. Give it a full shaker.
Yeah, I'd give it a full shaker. Maybe a few grains shy of a full shaker. You know, I mean, even though this person did scoop at instant speed, even though they did just like pack up their bag and walk away, they didn't like flip out or anything. They didn't say anything shitty. You know, I think like as far as a salty scoop goes, having something that's a little bit more subdued like this is like the way to go. Because we've had other stories on this podcast where that's the moment where someone throws a card or like drop kicks a deck or fucking, you know, like screams or whatever. Like that shit just can be completely unhinged sometimes.
It's true. It was salt that didn't turn into meanness, which I appreciate. You know, it's just a sulky kind of salt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very sulky, very salty, but a great move. I mean, expert politicking, G. All you had to say was, hey, look, I'm not the threat, man. And your opponent was like, yeah, you're right. And just completely turn their attention away. Yeah, you're right. I believe you.
Yeah. Well, is it that time of the week?
You know it.
Ooh, I think it is that time of the week, Tony.
Oh, baby. What time is it, though? When's it come?
It's that time of the week that comes every week.
Hell fucking yeah.
It's the time of the week where we say, Mike,
Mike.
what's the salty card of the week?
So glad you asked. The salty card of the week this week is fall.
Mike, tell me the salt. Yeah, tell me. Mike, tell me the salt. Mike, tell me salty cards. That's a Shaka Khan song for all the folks following along at home. Tell me something good by Shaka Khan.
Well, I will tell you something
I
good.
want someone to like post a list of all of them. I don't want to go back and do it myself, but I'm hoping someone at home is tracking along.
I hope so too.
The something good salty card of the week this week is Fall of the Thrawn.
The fuck is this card?
You know
That's
exactly
just
what
I
this
was-
card is. I know Sam has seen this card before. It is 5 and a white for a saga, enchantment saga.
This card.
Chapter 1 is Destroy All Lands.
Oh my fucking god.
Chapters 2 and 3 are each player returns 2 land cards from their graveyard to the battlefield.
It's a dumb card.
It's so good. Sam, does this make you salty?
I mean, yeah, but not like hugely salty. My salt with this card is weird. So, it makes me salty because it's a land destruction card, but it's weird because it has like the clause where people return lands from the graveyard to the battlefield, and it's like there's got to be a way to like break parity on that in like an interesting way. But it makes me
you just blow up
salty.
your own saga after you do it or something. Like
It makes me salty because Mike put this in the Secret Santa deck he gave me, the Abdel Far Traveler deck, and like the whole purpose of it was that I would keep flickering it in and make Mike is so overjoyed. He's cracking up.
I saw that this was the first day I saw that this was on the list, and I was so excited. This brightened my whole day.
So the Abdel deck like flickers your board like World Gorger Dragon style, and like Mike's intent with this was that I would play it and just like flicker the board and make sure no one ever had lands, and then you win from there. And like it was just a funny thing because he was like, there's a card in the deck and you'll know it when you see it. And I was like, okay. And then I drew it and I was like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this, man? I don't want my lands to be destroyed.
I remember him opening it up, like drawing a card and being like, what? Mike, what?
Yeah.
What the fuck is this? And me being like, do it. Seeing the 6 mana up and being like, do it. It's
like
time.
It's just so chaotic. And it's an interesting card because land destruction is one of those things, especially mass land destruction. It is one of those things that can break parity like really well. Like, a lot of people don't like it. Of course, it's wicked salty mechanic. But when you destroy all the lands at the right time, and if you can recover faster than other people, or if you have a board state that's just powerful and like gets you through, it is a huge parity break, and you can really pull ahead with tons of value. But it's one of those cards that like, in that Abdel deck, like the stars need to align where I have a flicker combo, I have the Fall of Thran in hand, I'm ahead in the board state and feel safe enough to destroy all lands. And it just has never happened to me. I think it's still in the deck, but it is just super funny, man.
Better be. Tony, how does this one make you feel?
I fucking hate it. I hate it so much. This falls into that typical category of nobody plays this with good intentions.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
You're never intending to play this in a world where people get the lands back. Like you're definitely just
That's
trying
true.
to fuck with people with it. Like
That's true.
Yeah, you're like doing some kind of like saga manipulation where you're removing lore counters and repeating the destroy all lands, or you're flickering it, or you're sacking it away, or destroying it yourself.
I think what also makes me salty about it is that, like Sam mentioned, for the stars to align for him to play it when it's most effective for him is a lot, but for him to play it when he could at least like get himself back in is probably more likely, which is more annoying because it's like, okay, now we're just slowing the fucking game down. Like Sam's not getting parity. He's just slowed the rest of us down because he has jack all. And he's like, okay, like this is how we'll do this. And he let it go one more turn and then flickered it so that like, you know, first we got 2 lands back, but then he fucking like, you know, yoinked all our shit again.
Have I played it? Did I play it one time?
No. I'm just envisioning
Hypothetical.
the scenarios in which you would actually play it, and they just upset me.
Yeah, like the only times I've ever had it in hand, it would be like the pure chaos play where I would just be like, well, I'm destroying all the lands, everybody.
How about you, Mike?
I love this card.
Yeah,
It's so
giddy,
good.
dude. You're overjoyed
It's
over there.
land destruction on a flicker. Like that's why this makes it. I mean, pretty much all mass land destruction makes it on the salty card list, but this gets this bonus points for being repeatable without needing to repeat, like, you know, any kind of spell casting thing. Like Armageddon, you got to find a way to get that back from your graveyard and cast it again. This, you just need anything that's flickering it. And I love it in Abdel because you can repeatedly just lock everybody out of having lands, and you can function on your turn with 2 lands. And then if you just have a bunch of rocks, which Abdel Adrian, there's a bunch of rocks in that deck.
There are some rocks.
So if you have a bunch of rocks, you can just play on top of the rocks and you're like mostly okay while you're flickering and destroying everybody's lands.
It's a good point. I guess I didn't consider that I still get the 2 lands back and then I can use those.
Because that happens on your turn.
Again.
You're going to draw 2 lands.
All right, before he gets too many ideas.
The other thing that makes this pretty solid in some kind of Abdel Adrian deck is if you have enter the battlefield exile effects, so things that come in and exile a card or 2, you can flicker this in, exile 2 lands, for example, from someone's yard.
Yeah.
And then you can continue to like wipe out other people's lands so that they, when it hits each player returns 2 land cards from their graveyard to the battlefield clause, someone's just stuck there with no lands and they're just wiped and you're out of parity.
Listen to yourself. How many fucking turns is it going to take for all that to happen? We're just going to be like 10 turns later and Sam will have finally like gotten all of the lands out of our yard. And I'm just like,
but if you can't do anything,
the
Tony,
thing is, the turns are quick. Yeah, draw go is very quick to say. So there's really no
it's
problem
not.
with that.
When you're mad, like it's draw, look at the card, know that it does nothing, sit there and stare, like fuck this, and then pass. Like there is no quick.
You're the king of the 10-minute turn, and then you cast 1 spell and pass. So
that is so fucking untrue, and it makes me mad.
It's real. That's so real.
So many fucking times, Sam just sits there and fucking is diddling himself for like 30 minutes, and no one says anything. And I'm like, he actually just took like a long turn. I hate everyone.
So
where's this
good.
sit on the fucking list, Mike?
Well, why don't you take some guesses? And
38.
Sam, God damn it, Tony.
I love it. I love that Tony always guesses first because then I can slip in with a great
I'm trying
guess.
so hard. I'm trying so hard to give you the opportunity.
I'm gonna go with 47, Mike.
Yeah, of course you're gonna slightly overcut him. Well, yes, it's Sam takes the dub yet again. It is 91.
Bullshit. Oh wow,
so it is pretty deep down there.
I'm surprised. I think
that
MLD. I usually assume MLD is top 50.
Yeah,
well,
that's basically where I went at it.
I do think that no one's playing this. It is also 6 mana, so that's like a little, more prohibitive than some of the MLD. It does return the land, so it doesn't even scratch that like complete destruction itch that a lot of people playing MLD would have. And lastly, one additional stat about this card that I personally love is that it's 19 cents.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So for the just shy of a quarter, you can really mess some people up. So
some budget salt.
Mm-hmm. Well, that wraps it up for the salty card of the week.
Well, thanks, Mike. That was a great salty card. And thank you to our listeners for tuning into another episode of the Howling Salt Mine podcast. If you want more Howling Salt Mine, check out our Patreon, patreon.com/Howling Salt Mine. We have a monthly extra show called Extra Salt. It's like a bonus show. We do deck techs. We do Q&A. We just kind of talk about things going on in our lives, magic related. We have our Stray Grain show, which is our short form show. All of the tangents and bits that don't make it into the show all collect there. And the patrons get to hear those. And we have a great Discord. And we're doing monthly game nights now, which is super exciting. And the Discord's a great time. We have like our deck list forum. We're all hanging out and chatting about spoilers in there, posting decks, talking about spicy cards every day. It's a really good time. If you have a salty story that you want read on a future episode, send it to us. Email it to us at our Gmail, which is thehowlingsaltmine@gmail.com, or DM it to us on any of our social media, Reddit, Instagram, Twitter. You can find all those links in our link tree in the show notes. If you haven't given us a 5-star review yet on your favorite podcast app, that really is something that does help us a lot. It increases the visibility of our podcast in like the greater algorithm out there, and just kind of helps people find us in the wild, which is really awesome and helps support the show. We also have merchandise, our Bonfire store. We've got some great t-shirts, some awesome swag that you guys can get. You can walk into your LGS and let all the blue players know how you really feel and that you think they're all trash. Or just, walk around with like a really awesome skull logo on your shirt. And speaking of that logo, we would be remiss if we did not mention our amazing podcast artist, JD Burnett. If you're ever in Asheville, North Carolina, hit him up and get a tattoo. He's a really awesome guy. I think that's it, guys.
Hell yeah, bitch.
And as always, stay salty and don't forget to draw an additional card during your draw step.
Shit.
What?
I forgot. 10,000 subscribers or bust.
It's the Howling Salt Mine. The Howling Salt Mine.
My God, the fucking loudest motorcycle just drove by me.
Oh, I didn't hear anything.
Damn
Nice.
it.
Thanks for
It was
ruining
just
that
really
moment.
it was to give you boat immersion.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I've played in pods before with my Gavi deck. Gavi.
Gobby.
My
golly.
Gavi deck.
We rip it right now.
I need to shoot the shit for at least 5 minutes.
Whoa.
I don't know if you guys can just talk about things. I'm coming fresh out of a work situation. So
Tell us about that.
Did you get fired?
no,
Did you
But
fire
I'm-
somebody?
no.
Did you poop in the urinal
Neither
again?
of those. I shit in the urinal and they found out.
Oh, that's awkward.
So I'm dealing with some fallout.
Dude, I'm telling you, you have to pull up your pants before you leave the bathroom. That's going to like leave a trail if you don't do that, you know?
Yeah, that's true. Well, no, the problem was
Have you ever left the bathroom without pulling up your pants? You say it as though you have experience with this. You're like, oh man, that one time I made it out without getting them all the way up. Like,
Dude, I'm just passing on wisdom, Tony.
just bad. That's sagely advice that you always give.
Well, I'm not going to pull my pants up when the poop is still halfway out. So I guess I just got to walk out of the bathroom pants half down, I think.
We're so stupid. I love it.